Hello, this is Peter Westerman again, tuning in week 3 and talking about irony in the Book of Esther. And so, one of the things that stuck out to me that was ironic in Esther was how God uses her in the king's court, and contrasting that against Vashti. And so, Vashti is the queen before Esther. She is kicked out because she doesn't respond to the king's command to appear in his court to the banquet. And because of her insubordination, she's banished. In comes Esther. Esther decides that she wants to go talk to the king, but she hasn't been summoned, so she boldly goes without even being asked, and not only appears, but then tries to ask the king for a favor. And so we have Vashti, who is commanded to appear and refuses, and is banished. And then we have Esther, who isn't asked to appear but shows up anyway, and then basically starts laying out her own commands. Very ironic. But what we see here, and what's highlighted to me, is that it's the same king, and he treats two different women almost in polar opposite fashion, and we have no indication as to why. And so what's obvious from our standpoint is that this is God working in the situation, that this isn't coincidental, this isn't just irony, this is God using Esther specifically in his plan. And so I like to take a step back, and I like to see the big picture, and you can get wrapped up in little dramas and see this kind of like VeggieTales Hollywood movie or whatever, but I think the big story here, and it's always the big story, is what's going on in the heavenly realm. What's God doing here? And I think that's the point of this class, and that's why I keep always trying to relate that to these posts. So what I see happening when you take that step back is you see Satan. Okay, and I think his move is he's going to try to use Haman as a pawn in his plan to attack God by committing genocide on the Jews that are in diaspora. And so we can see that because Mordecai humiliates Haman, and Haman, instead of just repaying the favor with another humiliation, says, I'm going to wipe out all your people. And he goes to this Hitler level, quite literally, and decides that he wants to commit this mass murder. This doesn't make sense. This isn't a man-made thought. This is a Satan-induced, a Satan-influenced plan. And so God, in his divine providence, is already making moves to to undermine Satan's plan here. And so that's why he brings out Vashti, brings in Esther, one of his own people, one of his own children. And the irony goes from the fact that she's this poor orphan, bringing her in and then bringing her up, and then there's tons of other examples which I hope you guys highlight in your discussions, because I don't want to get too in depth here, but God's got this huge big plan, and it may seem like coincidence, it may seem like irony to us, and maybe that's all part of God's joy and his humor, is he enjoys making things ironic. And I think that is true, because we can see the irony playing out throughout the Old and New Testament. Paul highlights it in 1 Corinthians 1:27 when he says, but God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. And Paul might be talking about himself even a little bit in this irony idea, because there is a great deal of irony in Paul and his testimony and who he is, but also with Jesus and how he came in as a baby in a manger, and a servant to all, but saved the entire human race. And so the irony that plays out there. But you can go all the way back to the characters in the Old Testament, whether it's Esther, whether it's Ehud, whether it's Gideon, whether it's Moses, all these players, these major players who are unqualified, who are unlikely, but God uses them in an almost ironic way, which is just so glorious. And I think the message that we have is that no matter what advantages Satan seems to have, whether it's a powerful man like Haman, who has this great influence, Satan wants to use him to completely wipe out the Jewish race, and he almost does. The Jews in diaspora anyway. God's already got a plan coming down the pipes to completely wash out everything that Satan's trying to do. And so for us living in the world today, yeah, there are some bad things that happen. There are some threatening things that happen. But ultimately, God's divine plan will always supersede whatever Satan is trying to concoct, whatever Satan is trying to do in this world to throw out God and to throw out his people. God's going to protect his children. God's going to preserve his children. No matter what they do, no matter who they are, he is going to fulfill his plan for us. And he's going to use some awesome irony tools to do that. Unlikely people, for sure. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video this week. I enjoy making it, and I look forward to discussion posts and interacting with you guys on the forums. So take care and enjoy the rest of your